What is up, friends? Forgive me if this video is a bit grainy. This is my laptop. But in a minute, we're going to switch to my webcam, which is at my feet, because we're going to have a look at short foot and some of my favorite exercise for feet and ankle strengthening, in particular with keeping in mind anti-ankle roll and anti-overpronation. So anti-collapse foot into a completely debilitated, non-propulsive, injurious pronation, because we need pronation, but we don't want collapse, which I'll show you. And we don't want ankle rolls. And ankle rolls can happen any way. You can absolutely twist an ankle, in other ways. But the most common, this is my foot, and this is the inner arch of my foot. The most common is that my foot is sort of plantar flexing and rolling to the outside. Okay, like I get stuck, my toe gets stuck as I'm going that way and I roll over it, or I change directions to go that way and oops, my ankle gets twisted out, someone steps on it. Lots of things happen, but very commonly it's a lateral ankle roll in a little bit of plantar flexion. So I'm going to show you my favorite, first short foot, which is essential. It is foot stability 101 for anything else you want to do to strengthen your feet, which you want to do to strengthen any part of your body. And then the calf raises that I use that have really given me some substance to my feet beyond any like foot PT, towel scrunching, all that business. That's more mobility focused. This is just rep it out until you smoke your calves and call it a day, two or three times a week. Okay, pick your favorite song and go nuts. I'm not going to do a full set with you today because I just did this, but I'm like, I should show them. So today's a good day. Let's do it. Let's look at short foot. My nails, by the way, my toes, this isn't going to be a pedicure. I mean, I got a hole in my ceiling. Yeah, it's not going to be a pedicure, but also just please believe I walk around barefoot all day, so my nails aren't clean. I walk in a garden. I got dirt under my nails. We're keeping it freaking real. But honestly, my feet work as feet. So first, let's look at short foot. I'm going to show you with this foot first. All right, so I'm on, so what I want you to appreciate is that this is a soft stance, right? Like slight athletic stance. My light just went out. That's a bummer. All right, slight athletic stance, not a super bent knee, and just not a locked knee, because the muscles we're going to be engaging are activating the foot to lift the arch. And when your arch lifts, it spirals your tibia, and you don't want that extra spiraling locking into your knee because your knee already has like a locking mechanism. So soft stance, plus you want to be able to engage those muscles because short foot is about the foot, but it's also about the upstream. So what am I thinking about? It's called short foot because I am shortening my foot from the ball to the heel. All right, let me, in my athletic stance position, get strong on that foot. You feel all the points of the foot being the ball of the big toe, the ball of the pinky toe, and the center of your big heel, or of your heel, right? So your big heel, thinking of your big toe. You are going to then squeeze, focusing on this arch line, focusing on driving that big toe down and shortening the ball of the foot towards the heel. It is not a big movement. It is not sexy, fancy, Instagram impressive. It is a squeeze. And as I do that, I'm actually feeling drag on the back pads of my toes because I am pushing them down into the floor. So reach with them first. Get max length in the system. Really reach. Make that tripod of the ball of the foot and the heel of the foot and the pinky ball. Make that big first. Stretch. Lengthen. Grab some floor with those toes. Push the toes down, not here. You have flexors in your toes, right? The flexion of this is extending the toes. Downward movement is flexing the toes. You have short flex the foot and crunch it in this folding position, but notice that pulls me off the ground, right? That's not what I want. This movement is a drill to train this athleticism of driving into the ground. So you want to use the flexors of your toes that push straight down, not that curl up. So find length, press down, and then use that action of continuing to push down and squeezing that medial arch in particular. You can see the whitening of the tip of my toe because I'm pushing into the ground so hard, right? And then actually, you can bring your body, so I lost the bend in my knee, so I'm keeping the bend in my knee. My toes have this tendency to want to crunch. I'm fighting that actively. Short foot is a a lifelong process. You just keep working it. And here you can see that you can see the indentation in the muscle, the definition in the muscle of my arch of my foot, as I'm trying to keep the driving the toes down, and even in some dorsiflexion of that ankle, I'm driving down. Side view, I have as spread a big toe as possible, really anchoring it in. It's the anti-bunion, right? So I don't want that toe to go across the midline of the foot and have the ball of the foot sticking out. Grab the toes, spread down, squeeze. Spread, lengthen, drive straight down, squeeze into the ground. Notice the ball of my foot hovered a little there. Part of that was because I was way back here in some plantar flexion, but even now the ball of the foot got lighter. It didn't drive down. I'm curling the muscle that's here to shorten that arch. Now let me talk to you for a second before we move on with my other camera. All right, so, sorry, now the light is like super bright. I changed the battery and it's, whew. So what are we thinking? We are thinking about activating all the intrinsic muscles of the foot. The entire foot complex comes to life when you dome it in this fashion. What you are doing is you're creating this suspension hydraulic system that the foot is designed. It has the bone and muscular and connective tissue architecture to create the suspension. The first stage of deceleration of your body, the first stage of negotiating stability upstream starts with, can you decelerate the foot from just bottoming out and rolling which way the terrain dictates, right? Or your momentum dictates. You want to be strong. It's a suspension, though. It's a suspension with strength. It's like you have air in the tires. They're not flat, right? You can put tires on a car and you're like, oh, well, that's padding, right? That's going to help. No, you want them to be nice and inflated, and then they give with resistance, right? They give with resistance. That's what you're going for. As you practice this, I've heard people say like drive the tips of the toes down, and I think all that's meant by that is the pads of the toe start to go down, and as you get stronger at this and you get more dome action, you are going to feel the tip of the toe go further towards the floor, but you're not trying to get the nails down per se. That's just sort of the direction it's going, as opposed to pushing into the back of the toe pad, which is what's going to push into the ball of the foot. Sorry, I'm showing you this with my hand and not my feet, but just wanted to talk to you. I'm also thinking in particular, and I'll change the camera, about the muscle that runs from the inside edge of the ball of the big toe on the toe side of the ball. So going beyond the ball of the big toe, it pulls towards the heel. Let me just show you. This muscle, your abductor hallucis. Abduction on the foot is actually pulling towards the midline, as we've already discussed, right? So I don't want to pull towards the center of the foot, which in the rest of the body, this is abduction, but at the foot, it's the other way. Yeah, really fun and confusing, but that's the deal. So pull that toe towards the midline. Imagine you're getting a more stable base. That toe is a rudder. It's helping you rudder, not leaning in. So reach it out, pull it in, and then drag to shorten. That's the two actions of this abductor hallucis, which runs. The meat of that muscle is right here, that sort of little juicy part of the heel. Hopefully it's not tender. And it runs under your navicular, which is the highest point of your foot. And then it attaches, the tendon of it attaches not to the ball of the foot, but to the big toe, the phalange, like the first little segments of the big toe. So it's pulling the foot medially towards your midline, and it's shortening that line. And that's what's giving, I'm telling you about the anatomy, the primary anatomy, because I want you to really think, aha, that beefy muscle right there is what's giving strength and resiliency to that arch. All right, there's my suspension. Now, you're going to practice this in a number of different ranges of motion, but start with just the bent leg stance and rep it out. Give me like a get good activation and release. Get good activation, release. It's very small. You know when you're doing it right if you get cramping, honestly, but when you start to feel that little bit of drag, maybe it'll just be very subtle. Just get a tiny arch lift. Don't despair. Don't give up. You will get it. All right, you will get it. It's just going to take practice. And at first, for example, I was extremely frustrated because I didn't know what it was supposed to feel like. So I was just like squeezing my foot and, wasn't getting a lot of feedback from my brain, wasn't getting a lot of feedback from my body to know, when am I doing this right? You will know you're doing it right when it feels powerful. When you feel like you are creating a barnacle suction cup to the floor. The idea is to get rooted. And here's the second piece of this exercise I want to tell you about. I'm sorry. So transitioning. The next part of the exercise I want to talk to you about is there's the foot portion, and then there's the calf and upstream portion. So the beauty of this exercise is it is teaching the foot strength, and then it is connecting the foot to your core. So once you have this ability to get tension in your foot, you're able to pull on the fascial lines that converge in your foot. You're able to create tension in them, create sensation in them, and that helps your brain find your feet, such that as your feet move, as your toes get bent back, as you activate different muscles in the foot, it's sending messages upstream to the muscles that coordinate with the foot muscles to do stuff with your body, right? So there's a conversation between the floor and the surface to generate power and the muscles that do the moving, all right? So the next thing I want you to think about, in addition to that foot position of the arch, lifting with the abductor hallucis, is think about your posterior tibialis. All right, your posterior tibialis is deep. It connects between your tibia and fibula, and it's deep to all the calf muscle, right? And it runs down. It's got this beautiful trajectory with a few other friends, and it crosses, and it can underneath your ankle bone, your medial malleolus, and then up to the navicular. So it goes down to come up, and it grabs here. It grabs that foot like a hand, and it literally attaches to like 9 different places on your foot. So you've got the combination, the interaction between the abductor hallucis shortening it, and then the posterior tibialis helping create that strong lever to supinate the foot to prevent collapse in, but also to have this very strong lever action, which is where you want to be here for any push off position. So you're getting strong, stable base, bam, grabbing the floor, pushing, not here, definitely not here, right? So that's how those two work. And so short foot, as you start to grab, first you're going to get more activation at the foot, and then you're going to be able to be like, wow, my calf is burning. I'm feeling this deep activation in my calf. That's what you want. That's a good sign that you are on the right track, because now the foot muscles are talking to the muscles upstream. And little by little, every time you do your squats, your deadlifts, right, your single leg work, whatever you're doing, you are going to cue that exercise, engage it nice and hard, right? Engage it with some conviction on the floor. Once you get practiced at it, you're going to see the definition in the feet. You're going to look at your feet. If you're doing, squats or something, you're going to look at those feet. You're going to see the profile. You're going to see that definition. You're going to feel that you are grabbing the ground, and you're going to push the floor away, driving those toes down. So really engaging short foot on the way up, along with, we can build on this. You can get some pelvic floor activation as well. So you would be down, drive into the floor, drive those toes down, engage your pelvic floor, which we can talk about and send you some resources on, because that is pushing then against the floor and against your pelvis to compress that intensity, right? Neither end. You're not running on quicksand, and your hips aren't all wobbly. Your muscles of your deep hips are not unstable. You're creating pressure into the floor with stability of short foot, driving through the leg. Pelvis is nice and level. Pelvic floor is engaged so that there's no give unless you want to create give. It's stable on its own. Boom. And then release. All right. Hopefully that is helpful. Let's do some calf work. I might make a separate video, but I'm just going to let it roll for now. This is what I had it set up to show you originally. So keeping in mind short foot, that same activation is your starting point. See, I told you I got dirt under my toenails. I'm a gardener, people. I run around in soil all day long. And it's just, hey, my feet do foot stuff. I'm proud of it, even if people are going to be like judgy. I also shower. Okay. So first things first, get nice and strong. Find that short foot activation and just bring it through some very low level calf raises. Low level. Why? Don't be in a hurry to get out of this position. Get nice and strong here. Don't come all the way up onto those toes and stack really strong up at the top where you're just like stacking your bones. I want muscular engagement on the full range. So spreading the toes and aiming for that second to big toe breakover, right? If you can, if you have pain in your foot and that toe doesn't want to bend back, it is going to be, especially for my athletes, that is going to become a limitation. You want substantial dorsiflexion range in that toe. If you do not have it today, you're working for it. But if you have bunion pain, plantar fasciitis pain, be careful. Engage, drive into the ground to come up. So don't lift off, not push into the floor to squeeze up. And I'm falling, but I'm going to fight it. See? Keep it real. Fight the fall. I'm falling because I got distracted. I'm going to find it again. Fight for it, people. Fight. And then with a lot of discipline. Don't play yourself. Discipline. I'm squeezing my glutes. I'm squeezing my hamstrings. And every time I go to fall back, I recover. I find my balance again. And then I squeeze down. My hamstrings are on fire. My glutes are, well, no, not really my glutes, but I'm feeling deep engagement in my hips. My hamstrings and calves are lit up. My heels are still hovering, and I'm still muscularly engaged, and my arches are still lifted. So even though those arches lifted, I'm engaging a short foot activation, even though the heel's not on the ground. There you go. There's your advancing your short foot, right? Same business. So here's the calf raises I wanted to show you. So that's just my intro calf raise. Just do a vanilla calf raise, but do it with that level of discipline. Because remember, we're not trying to be ballerinas. We don't want to just stand on the ball of our foot and stack our bones. I have no disrespect for ballerinas, some of the strongest athletes in the world, but that's not productive for us, okay? And don't do your calf raises in your shoes, for God's sakes. Do them barefoot so that you really get that toe articulation and go through a couple falls. I've got nothing in my hands. You can see I'm just doing this free form. And I want you to see, work the deceleration hard. Oh, I fell a centimeter. I'm going to go reverse through that range of motion because that's a range of motion I don't control. I'm driving my toes down, so I'm not letting them crunch up. Drive the toes down, meaning the same as short foot, push them into the floor. And now let me just show you a few variations. Now I like to use a pad because I have, there's no need to like put extra wear and tear on the ball of your feet if you don't have to, right? And yeah, I know, dirty feet. I hope yours are dirty too. All right, let me show you a few variations. I'm doing this for balance, so it might be a little, hopefully it'll be nice and stable, but like I said, I've already done my reps for today. So let me show you, I think that's a decent angle. You might need a little. All right, so first things first, rep out your vanilla calf raises. So push down and rep it out. Aiming over the second or third toe. Squeeze up to squeeze down. Squeeze up to squeeze down. Arches are lifted. Next set, give me posterior tibialis oriented calf raises. Emily Splickle does this with a lacrosse ball between her heels. And she'll have you come here, and at the top of that action, it's a flick, right? It's this supination of the feet. Supination of the feet. Supination of the feet. So what does that mean? It means at the top of my calf raise, or maybe 2/3 of the way up, I'm spiraling, lifting that arch like we talked about in the short foot video or earlier in this video, depending on how I edit it. Lifting the arch with that muscle that reaches under that also plantar flexes the foot. So short foot, pull up, posterior tibialis all day, lifts the arch and lifts it not only up, but kind of supinates it. It's your anti-pronation muscle, supinate it, right, in this plantar flexion. This is a huge part of propulsive power. Your posterior tibialis is going to connect to your glutes ultimately in fascial relationship, and that's what you can imagine for your propulsion, forward. All right, so there's you're going to rep those out. So first vanilla, straightforward, up and down, single leg if you're strong enough, right? Give me a few single leg ones on each side if you're strong enough. And then posterior tibialis emphasized, that flick at the top. So all the way, and then feel a little extra goodness. Now, here's the anti-ankle roll one that I'm so proud of. There's a couple different ways to do a variation of this. First, I'm just going to show you a turned out foot calf raise. So here, again, I'm feeling a lot. I almost want to fall back, right? I want to fall out over the external rotation. So here, let me just do a regular, I would call this a posterior tibialis driven calf raise in external rotation because I'm trying to keep that arch up and over the second to third toe, although I'm in external rotation. That is another variation of the challenge, right? So squeeze down to come up, press through the floor to come up, activate your short foot through the full range, drive the toe down as best you can, squeeze up, squeeze up, squeeze up, kiss that floor. Here, I almost wanted to fall. I'm fighting it and I'm lowering, getting every bit of balance and strength education for my body as I can at every rep. Now here's the one that I want to show you that's a little bit different, but I wanted to show you that for contrast. The side view, it's going to be, I am going to allow my foot to roll a tiny bit. Okay, I'm going to tempt that ankle roll and then I'm going to push it over. I'm going to tempt the ankle roll, push it over. What I just did was straight up and down, but in turnout, right? I'm in turnout, but I'm straight up and down. Straight up and down. And then this one is, instead of up and down, I'm going to slightly roll over that pinky and then push up into this. Push up, push up, push up. And you are hopefully going to feel your peroneal group rather than your posterior tibialis. You're going to feel the peroneals that run down the outside attach here and actually cross under the foot and pull it this way. Your posterior tibialis rolls the foot into supination or pulls the foot into plantar flexion and supination, which is this. This muscle, the peroneal group, pulls it into plantar flexion and eversion or pronation. But again, it's pronation with a purpose. It's, in this case, it's pronation to keep me out of over supinating my foot in an ankle, in a lateral ankle roll. It's driving my foot that way. So we think of pronation as bad when it's just a collapse, but we absolutely have to pronate, and all the movements are relative. So here, for example, if I'm doing a cut and I'm going to run that way, my foot is in relative supination, right? My momentum's going that way. My foot is going to want to go that way. I need to get that way. So I need to be able to start, not just with my glutes. If I just power my glutes, I might overpower my ankle. My body keeps going that way. I need my foot to change to satellite towards the floor with strength. So I'm using the muscles on this side of the calf that that reach is what I was saying, reach and wrap under the foot to come under here, that pull this way. And I go pinky toe to big toe. Feel that drive across the foot. It's not collapsing. Make it muscular, drive across, and then push through, right? It would really be more, whatever the position is off the floor, depending on your alignment, whatever the movement is you're doing. But then I'm using the muscles upstream to drive my body. But first, bam, foot has to do it. So this is the reason I'm setting it up like this, is I want you to see the purpose for doing the calf raise with this little tempt the ankle roll, tempt the ankle roll, and hold something to do this. I'll even show you here. Hold something to do this so that you know, first of all, I don't want you to roll your ankle by accident, if that might be an issue, right? So hold something to keep it safe. And turn your feet out slightly. I'll show you a different angle in a second. But turn those feet, sorry, a distraction in my house. I'm skating on my little pad. Come up, find that pinky toe, squeeze up and over. Down over the pinky toe, up over the pinky toe. Down over the pinky toe, up from the pinky to the big. Down and up from the front. Sorry for all the camera fuss, guys. I don't usually record my feet. Wasn't really sure what to set up. So I like to do this in some turnout. You don't really have to. You could do it here. You could, but I get a more satisfying engagement, and I think it's a little bit more realistic to real life to be in some degree of turnout for when these muscles are really challenged. So find your short foot, or your short foot activation anyway. Engage those muscles of external rotation. See how I'm supinating, right? The big toe is a little bit lifted here. It's just lighter. I've got a lot of weight on the ball of my pinky toe, and I'm feeling it already in the outer thighs, and push towards the big toe. Lower, rolling it to the ankle roll territory, right? Imagine you're rolling both your ankles over the outside at the same time, and roll it down, and rep it out. So here, The big toe gets lighter. Try not to just like fall back. Make it controlled and muscular the whole way like we did earlier. And smoke your calves. All right? Squeeze them out. It doesn't look like anything, but give me reps. Tremble here. Squeeze up and squeeze down. Squeeze up and squeeze down. Squeeze up and squeeze down. All right? I would actually, if I'm going to do it, I would probably step my feet even wider to make it even more challenging. Right? And I would do reps here. Now, the reason it's so important to squeeze is, you know, the deceleration and the acceleration, not just because harder, not just because it's harder, but because you are training a neural pathway for your brain to control that motion. So if you've had an ankle roll before, we all know they're one of the most common re-injuries. They're one of the most common areas of the body that becomes chronically unstable. Like you lose the proprioceptive capacity to stabilize that muscle or that joint. And so what we need to do is get the mechanical stability of the muscles to fortify as best we can. And as we get the muscles stronger, we're also, by repeating it, by doing it with a lot of awareness and not just 4 reps. When I say rep it out, I mean like do enough of them to get the activation, okay? Build some strength. But what we really want is mindful reps, because I want you to feel every micromillimeter of that burn so that your brain can find every micromillimeter of that range of motion and know where you are in space, right? Know where you are in space and know that's either safe territory or it is not safe territory, but you could push off that foot. Some of this is injury prevention, some of it's performance. They go together. I'm going to change my camera and call it a video. All right, guys. I'm like on fire with my light here. I hope that was useful. I hope that was fun. I hope you get really satisfying calf and foot workouts from a lot of that content. There's plenty of other foot exercises, but if you do nothing else, start with short foot and then calf raise till you will feel your feet get stronger. You can point and flex all day. You can squeeze towels, lift marbles, do all the business you want to do. You know, draw your name with your toes. You can do that if you want. But for me, functional foot strengthening just starts with use your feet and strengthen your calves. Right? And going through short foot with the calf exercise will really get the deep muscles of the foot while building functional strength of the calf to the foot to do foot stuff. Sorry if this is a grainy video. Sorry for hiccups in the video, but I appreciate you and I hope this has been interesting.